Good morning, Effie. Can I welcome you to the podcast today? I'm super excited to talk to you, a fellow podcaster and fellow special needs mama.
Good morning, April. Thank you so much for inviting me. I always love it so much when I get to talk to another podcaster too and nerd out a little bit.
Pretty much a first for me to find one that does something so similar. So that's super fun. I love your, I want to hear more about your podcast a little bit more during our interview. And I really admire the way that you have your podcast, that it's very professional, and I like your style. So anyways, I'm looking forward to getting to know you as a special needs mama a little bit more and hearing about your son and your parenting journey.
Thank you.
So tell me about your son and your family.
Sure. So I live in Seattle, Washington with my husband and my two kids. My 5-year-old son, Ford, was born with a rare neurological disease called CTNNB1 syndrome. Like many syndromes, there's a spectrum. These kids aren't producing enough of a protein called beta-catenin, which is responsible for a lot of things, unfortunately, involved with cells, division, adhesion, health, growth. And it shows up in numerous ways for the kids. So some of the things, Ford, he can't sit or crawl or walk yet, or maybe ever. He uses a wheelchair to get around and have independence. He is nonverbal. He has microcephaly. He has hypotonia, dystonia. He is fed by a G-tube. Those things don't even compare to his laughter and his brightness and just how genuinely lovable he is. So yeah, he's our little special dude.
He sounds awesome. You have another child as well?
Yep, we have a almost 3-year-old little girl named Ezzy, and it's the opposite. We've had such a different experience. Even next to other kids her age, she started talking before she was 1. She has the vocabulary of a grown-up. It's wild. Her enunciation, she understands concepts. She loves cooking and painting, and it's a totally different experience of motherhood, one that I definitely expected the first time. But yeah, we kind of have both ends of the spectrum pretty intensely.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I was having my child was under 1 year old, we were at like a special intervention program, and one of the parents had older children, and they had one child with special needs and one child that was typically developing, and they talked about having like one foot in each world, and they liked that experience, to have that contrast. I think it helps you appreciate a lot of each experience to have that.
100%. I mean, Ford did that for us before she came around, for sure. The loss of those expectations, and then realizing what joy you can find out of it, and the perspective changes that you gather, and finding out what's really important. That happening just from Ford was, something I didn't really expect either.
Mm-hmm. So how was the diagnosis process for him?
Well, the second Ford came out, he would not latch or suck or swallow. Our medical professionals around us, our pediatrician and our lactation specialists and our midwife really blew us off and told us we were worried parents, and that Ford just had colic and I must have been doing something wrong. And my husband and we were up 24 hours a day for 3 months because he screamed and writhed in pain, and we could never get a bottle of like 1 to 3 ounces down him in less than an hour. And finally, after going to our pediatrician once a week for a couple months, she believed us, and she was worried about Ford, and he was instantly admitted into our children's hospital with failure to thrive, which then started this whole waterfall of things that happened. Eventually getting sent home after a week with all of these appointments and equipment, and we got an appointment with a geneticist who gave him a whole exome sequencing test. So we waited about a little over 6 months for those results, and ultimately got his diagnosis.
Were you expecting to get a diagnosis?
It's funny you say that. I always say, like, even though this geneticist was convinced something was wrong genetically, she even had an idea of what it was. I really didn't expect there to be something coming back. I was also just so consumed, with stress and fear and worry and sleep deprived and postpartum and my life already being so different than I thought it was going to be, that I just didn't even really dwell on the test results and what they might be, because I couldn't imagine something was going to be from them, And I kept listening to all the people around me going, he'll grow out of it. It's fine. Every kid catches up. My kid did that, And so there was just so much going on that I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect a rare neurological disease. Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's really fortunate. I don't know about lucky is the right word, but that your pediatrician did listen to you, especially at so early on.
I'm glad she did. I honestly felt like she waited too long. I fired her after that
Wow.
because she didn't believe me for so long. And I felt betrayed and I felt really angry with her. But yes, I guess I am glad that she listened at that 3-4 month mark, because maybe some don't.
Well, then I guess the credit should go to you for being persistent rather than her, huh?
I was lucky enough to have my husband there at the same time. He took paternity leave the same time I took mine. And so it wasn't just me alone going, something's wrong. I feel crazy. This isn't right. It was someone else going, yeah, this isn't right. And so I feel like maybe having that really raw time with my husband together, where we were both just in the trenches and the only ones really understanding what was happening, really helped us be able to kind of stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, that's really something you should be grateful for. I know
Totally.
It's bizarre to be grateful for such a difficult time, but this is the way that it worked out for you to get a quick diagnosis, because then that puts us in the path of what can we do about it, right? The interventions and therapies, if there are any. Is there you had known when you did get the diagnosis?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is there anything you wish you had known at the time of the diagnosis?
Yeah, I wish I would have known that I wasn't alone. I wish I would have known about this great big world of families raising medically complex, rare disease kids. I wish I would have known that they weren't broken and that my son's life wasn't going to be ruined because of this diagnosis. I wish I would have had someone scoop up and show me resources that I needed without me having to dig through like teary eyes on the internet. I wish there was a little bit of a guide rather than, we don't know anything. He's 1 in 30 in the world. We read one paper and some of the kids can say some words and some of the kids can take some steps. There's no treatments, there's no cures. Have a nice day. Mm-hmm. That's what we were told. And for maybe that doctor to have Googled a little deeper and said, there is an advocacy group. Here's the address. There is hope. Here's Global Genes. Like little things that the medical professionals could do in your appointments when they're dumping this earth-shattering diagnosis on families. Just mm-hmm. taking a little extra step to give you one piece of hope, I would have changed that for sure.
Yeah, very well said. Do you feel like that's what led you to do the podcast?
100%. I felt so completely isolated, especially as time went on. And I had kids with like 5 of my friends. Our kids were all 6 weeks apart. And then, day to day, the gaps between my kids and their kids just began to be so apparent that I couldn't even see them anymore. I couldn't even see them because I was also just at an appointment all day, every day in the car, So my life was just consumed and I was so sad, and I was so traumatized from it all, um, that I began searching in the car. Like, I need to listen to stuff while I'm in traffic. I need to listen to stuff while I'm taking Ford everywhere. And I Googled things and I tried to find audiobooks, and, I found a handful of stuff of parents and people talking about the stuff that I needed. And it was a lifeline for me. And 5 years ago, barely any of that existed. Every time I see a podcast pop up now, I'm like, yes, and I share it. Like, the more the merrier. We need this content so badly. And yeah, I felt compelled to be a part of the conversation and to help give resources and hope and share stories, because that changed everything for me. That made me snap out of it and go, okay, this isn't the end of the world. This isn't the worst thing ever. There is joy here. There is something we can do. And I have to make sure that the next parent does not feel like this. Or at least for as long as I felt like that. So yeah, I started my podcast almost immediately after I had that aha moment.
How old was Ford?
Let's see. I started my podcast a little over 2 years ago. So 2.5.
Yeah. I love that. I can hear your passion, and you're making me emotional. I feel like we had a very similar at the beginning. I'm just really excited to dig into your podcast and hear more about what you do. And it's called Once Upon a Gene.
Once Upon a Gene, and it's so good. I know it's my podcast, but it is so good. I mean, the stories on there, no matter what, something is going to stick, and there's so many resources there, and it's just such a community, and I'm really proud of it.
I love it. I aspire to be more like that.
You're right on track, April.
Someone to look at that ahead down the road. So I'm grateful to have found you as well. Could you tell me your favorite memory about Ford?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how I would do that. Ford is so special. Man. Those times, Ford had like a chronic lung infection for the first 4 years of his life, almost 4. And he would get so sick all the time, and he would like constantly have 103, 104 degree fever, and we were constantly like, okay, whose turn is it to take him to urgent care? He was just so sick all the time. But when he would get that sick to where we had to bring him in, like, he just globbed onto you, and his dystonia in his arms usually make him really stiff and really flaily. But when he was really sick, I know it's weird, but like those moments where he just like actually put his arms around my neck and just like nuzzled in my chest, like, I'll never forget those times.
It's very special to get a little hug.
So sweet. They're just the best. He just needed me so much, and I needed him.
Mm-hmm.
I love those moments with Ford.
What do you want people to know about Ford?
Yeah, and I just want people to know that he's just like you. He is funny and brave and adventurous and wild, and he loves people so much. He loves playing. He loves going fast. And it's hard for people to see that when they look at him, when they don't know him. They see this kid with these glasses and this one squirrely eye, and he's in a wheelchair and he can't talk to you and he's squealing. And it takes people off guard, and some people are uncomfortable, and some people don't know what to do. And like, just say hi. hey buddy, like he understands you. And I just want people to look at Ford like they look at everyone else. He's a human being and he deserves the same thing that you would give to anyone else.
Do you feel like he has a superpower?
Yeah, it's definitely his laughter. 100%. You have to hear it. It plays at the end of every episode on my podcast, so go check it out. Seriously, his superpower is his laugh, and our family has said that since he was born. Like especially in those really hard moments and those really hard days, Ford will just start belly laughing, and it does not matter. Nothing matters. Like snap out of it, come back to this place right here, right now, because this is the best moment ever. Just be in it. And it takes out any stress or worry or annoyance that's happening to you. And you go, oh my gosh, here I am right here. This is the best thing ever. And he knows his laugh makes other people laugh. It's amazing. It's just really amazing.
I can't wait to hear it. Yeah, he brings you
so funny.
Brings joy to the moment.
Totally. And it just makes you like, oh yeah, I am back in the present moment where I'm always supposed to be. Here I am. I got away for a second.
That's awesome. I love it.
He's the man.
What do you feel like is your greatest lesson from parenting Ford and Ezzy?
I have learned so many lessons, man, like so many more lessons to come, I'm sure. Gosh, it kind of goes back to that laughter thing and that present moment. I just really learned what's important with our family and what really matters, and taking the time to really embrace what we do have and love it as much as possible, and not worry about what I don't have, and not worry about frivolous things that I probably would have worried about had I not had Ford. The things that stress my friends out, like would never even stop on the highway to me now. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to maybe just sit back and slow things down and intentionally play with my kids. And man, I feel like I realized how special this is a lot earlier than I might have before.
Being a parent.
Yeah.
So it was very clarifying for you.
Yeah, it was very clarifying for me. And it was also just a reminder of how important family is. And I'm so grateful to have one. First of all, I know I'm so lucky to have family. But it really just, I mean, you know how family is. Like when you have a kid like ours, they're everything. We can't do this alone. It's really hard. But yeah, I mean, my perspective on a lot of things changed. My eyes opened up to what disability is. I didn't ever really look at it. I didn't ever really understand it. I didn't ever seek it out. I didn't realize that it was another form of diversity that is almost invisible to most people still. And I realized that I was living in a world that wasn't made for people like my son. And I am on a mission to make sure that I leave this better than I found it, because it's unacceptable. And yeah, my eyes just widened, like so much, and in so many areas that I never expected.
Tell me more about your mission. What are you doing? The podcast primarily? Do you have any other advocacy activities?
Well, I think it's just in everyday life, right? Making allies out of everyone you can. I've always been harping on our grocery stores to get those carts that people who are disabled can sit in. I was just part of a grassroots effort to make our next playground in our town an accessible and inclusive park, because they were just going to tear it down and put up the standard park until I got involved with my family and some other people in the community. And we were on boring city halls for like 8 months, and we made it happen. It's being put up right now. They just delivered a piece of the equipment. And that's going to be our very first accessible and inclusive park in our neighborhood. That's and exciting. Yeah, and like I would have never cared about that. I would have never fought for that. I wouldn't have even noticed. And I had to fight hard because people that were on it still didn't notice. People that lived in the community still didn't notice. And I think it changed a lot of people's hearts and minds, and it was awesome. And it was a learning experience for my entire town. Let's see, the day-to-day stuff, right? At the playground, all the questions, all the stares, you're constantly educating other people's kids. And if there isn't a ramp or something in a business, I let them know. If someone leaves their cart out in the middle of the only sidewalk that goes to the ramp, I ask them to return it, or I return it if they're gone. Because that stuff, especially maybe if there's an adult who doesn't have a mom helping to push their kid around, how are they getting around that? Move the sign that the restaurant puts out in the middle of the road. Move that. Move it to the side. Everybody needs to just like do their part. And I think that educating our people around us to educate their own kids and to educate themselves and to be allies and to be advocates, we have to just spread that as much as possible. Because yeah, like I said, it's 2021 and like half the places here I have to call to see if I can go to. And a lot of the time it's a no. And that's not okay.
And the accessibility affects the visibility, right? Because if their places aren't accessible, people with disabilities don't go, and then they're not seen and they become that invisible or stay at home.
That's such a good point. Yes. I love how you said that. The accessibility creates, what did you say? Invisibility? Visibility. So true, right? Like, when do you really see like you don't really see disabled people out as much as you should, or as much as you would if it was more inclusive everywhere and more accessible everywhere for them to get out. Like there's just so many barriers. And you're right, it's almost like hear no, see no, whatever for people.
Do you have advice for other parents?
Yeah, I was just talking with my girlfriends this weekend, like, we need you to be allies. We need you to talk about this stuff to your kids at home, just like you do every other diversity, just like you're teaching them about Black Lives Matter, just like you're teaching them about trans, just like you're teaching them about everything, other people's religions. Teach them about disability. Teach them about kids who use mobility devices and who use talking devices and all of the things. It's not just my job. It's your job. It's everybody's job. And I shouldn't have to parent your kids and teach them everything at the playground because I just want to go there and push my kid on the swing. Okay. I'm there too. I will, because I love my child and I love your child. And I want this world to be a kinder, more inclusive place, but it's your job. Teach this stuff at home. Buy the books, buy the children's books. Just have it be a conversation because it's important. And we can't do this alone. Nothing's going to change if we aren't changing it. And these kids are so smart and they're so bright and they're so loving. So give them the opportunity to know kids like my son, because most of us didn't get that opportunity. And look what it did. What a disservice. This is such a special opportunity to let these kids know each other. They become more empathetic. They're more compassionate. They are smarter. I mean, there's so many things that flourish, and to take that away by just the lack of education and ignorance is, it's not okay. We have to do better. We know better.
Right. And things like your Ford's superpower, his ability to bring people back to the present moment, bring people joy. Like each of the children with disabilities have some sort of superpower. And when we don't have the inclusion, the exposure, everybody misses out on that, you
They
know?
do. They miss out on it. And kids are curious, and kids want to, they want to include people like Ford. I see that. I see it a lot. But when I see your parent shushing you, or when I see a kid who flips out, like, it's so hard.
I think, but the things like we're doing the podcast and talking about the experience, because people feel, I think, disconnected from this experience, like it doesn't have anything to do with them, but it is just a human experience. It's on the spectrum of things that can affect you in your life. It could, it might occur in your family down the road. You might have a friend with a child with this disability. It's not a separate experience from the typical parenting.
Yes.
So I really love seeing the other podcasts, the other platforms, because it's a great way to reach a lot of people instead of just, one-offs at the playground, at the grocery store, that kind of thing, to get it out on a larger platform.
Totally. And I also love the podcast medium for this too, because those people who don't necessarily want to ask you, or who are comfortable in asking these questions, or who don't want to screw it up, like they can go to things like this and do it on their own time to gain insight. They can hear it from parents like us talking about it without having to like make it a situation. It's so passive and digestible that I think it's a great resource for everyone.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I loved meeting the other parents. So before you started the podcast, were you someone that was outgoing and open? That really a big shift for you?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've always been like fluttering around and have a million people that I love, and I'm super social and I'm really friendly. Yeah, so the same I am now. It's just totally different. It's a totally different conversation.
Yeah. So how would you say parenting has changed you in general? Like, to elaborate on that a bit more.
Well, I realized who my people are, like I definitely don't have the space for a lot of those kind of extra relationships and friendships. Like I love you so much still, but like I don't have room for that. Whereas before, I mean, I would put 100 things on my calendar in a week and try to fit everyone in. And I just don't do that now. I've made a lot of boundaries for my personal time and my family time, and boundaries is something I didn't have before, honestly. I was definitely more of a people pleaser, and now I make every decision for, do I have the bandwidth as a caregiver to do this? And is this good for my family? And sometimes it's with my family, like I have to create a boundary. Nope, I can't come to that. Nope, I don't have it. I didn't ever make space for just me before. And now I guard it.
Right, because you can get so depleted as a caregiver.
Totally. Yeah, no, it's precious. It's so precious. And I take help. I ask for help. I didn't used to do that. And now I do. And that was such a great thing to learn, man. People who still can't ask for help, I'm like, dude, you gotta figure it out. People, first of all, want to help you. they want to help you. And once you start asking for help and telling people what you need, man, that really lightens your load. And as a caregiver, as a parent, like you need that, period. You're going to get burnt out. You're going to get sick. It's not good for you. If it's not good for you, it's not good for anyone else.
So you have better boundaries. You take some time for yourself. Is there anything else you do or recommend doing as a caregiver for your mental health?
I mean, like everything. I mean, we talk about self-care, right? So most parents I talk to say they don't do anything for self-care. And I think people have a misconception of what it is. I've learned what it is, what it truly is. And I've learned that it's not a trip, and it's not a vacation, and it's not a massage, and it's not, a fancy resort. It's daily habits, non-negotiable daily habits that you make. It's boring. It's stuff like, for me, I have on my fridge a magnetic chalkboard, and I have 4 oxygen tanks drawn on it, and I put something green in there. I have to eat something healthy. I have to breathe. I have to breathe a lot. I've learned a breathing practice. I have to go outside. And oh my gosh, what's my 4th one all of a sudden? What were we talking about? I have, drinking water. Drinking water. And you know what? I do every one of those things every day. And every time I do one of them, I'm like, oh yeah, take care of me. It feels like I get something done, especially on those really crappy days where like vomit is everywhere and it's sad and everyone's having a meltdown. Like if you can still get anything done, like something simple like those are for just you. Those are things that help sustain you. That's huge. That's a success. Those are things just for you that really add up and make a big difference later. Sometimes it's just like wearing a bright neon pink lipstick, and I catch myself in the mirror walking by and I'm like, oh my God, I love this lip color. It makes me smile. That stuff, that is what taking care of yourself is. A therapist told me recently that going to the dentist is self-care. Like, when was the last time you went to the dentist, caregivers? When was the last time you did that? Most people say, I don't know. Like, those are things that you have to do to take care of yourself. And those things pay off, especially when you make them daily habits.
I really like how you said it's boring.
It's boring. Yeah, it's boring. It's not glossy and pretty and glamorous like Instagram makes it out to be. It's not any of those things.
Yeah, it's a really good perspective on self-care. I totally agree. And it needs to be the habitual, the things you can do that are non-negotiable, that are simple, that make sense, that move the needle in the right direction. And I think something that you might not give yourself credit for, but something I'm hearing from you is that you really talk to yourself positively.
Yes, I do. And I have worked on this since just a little shortly after Ford's diagnosis, because I got crippling anxiety, and I had never had anxiety. I didn't know it was happening to me. I felt like I was literally choking. I never could catch my breath. I constantly was just searching for my breath and trying to breathe. A scarf was like tied around my neck. And when it got to be so bad, I was like, this is not okay. I have to do something. I started getting body work, and I started actively taking care of myself. And that changed everything. I listen to a lot of podcasts from parents like us and families like ours. That lifts me up. I read a lot of books, like Oprah and Brene, or no matter what, on every device I have. I also came from a family where my mom was like this, she's woo woo, airy fairy. And I had a lot of these tools before. I just had forgotten they were there when Ford got sick. But yeah, you gotta find out what those things are that you have to have every day, no matter what. And don't make it too complicated. It might even be getting in your car and driving across the street. Like, don't stay in your house. Don't close the door and have your spouse watch the kids. Don't go get in the shower with the kids in the background. Don't go hide in your closet. Leave, 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 leave. Leave the front door so you cannot hear them, so you are not vigilant. Maybe it's 10 minutes. Maybe it's 10 glorious minutes where you literally have no vigilance. Like, do that. Don't stay in your bedroom and just close the door, because you're never going to relax that way.
Mhm. Yeah, we were doing a practice where we would have a night off in the evenings, like once a week, and trade places. And we had gotten out of the habit because one week something came up and then we just didn't do it. And one day I had the opportunity to stay in town after work and grab a cup of coffee and do some things I wanted to do. And I was like, oh my gosh,
That's
this
it.
so refreshed me.
That's it. That's the money. Yes. Yeah. Like, just getting away from being vigilant, period. It'll give you so much pep in your step.
Amen.
Really.
Definitely.
Maximize it.
Do that for yourself, if nothing else, after this.
Totally.
So Effie, what are your thoughts on the future for forward for your family? What are some things you're looking forward to?
Let's see. Well, I'm a little nervous because we just signed up for new healthcare that starts in the new year. So I'm scared about all of the things that entails, but I am hopeful because our last healthcare company that we've had for the last 5 years didn't give Ford any therapy. So we've been paying for that and doing it ourselves and stuff. So I'm really excited to hopefully find a new great PTOT SLP feeding team, and that'll help push forward. And oh man, let's see, what else am I excited? I'm just excited to settle in and cozy up for the holidays with my family. I feel stronger this holiday season than I've ever felt with Ford. These times are obviously super hard, where we let the grief and the joy mingle. But I feel stronger this time, and I'm really proud of myself. I'm really proud of myself because that's the work that I've been doing. And that's from the boundaries kept. And that's from processing things and really building myself up, that I just want to give myself a high five, because honestly, I didn't think I'd be here this soon or during the holidays, you know? So I'm looking forward to our family just growing in perspective. And I think that we're in a really special place right now, that we can reflect a little bit and not just be in the trenches, but also have a lot of hope for the future. We have some really exciting stuff going on thanks to some families in our CT and NB1 community. And we have some drug repurposing stuff happening and some gene therapy stuff happening, all in the very beginning stages. But there's hope that there could be a treatment for Ford or for kids coming after him. And that's really exciting. So I'm excited to be in this community for so many reasons. They inspire me every day. I get off a phone call every day and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I get to talk to people every single day who are actually changing the world, who are actually making a difference. And it just puts so much momentum into everything that I do and the way that I love my family. And I'm so grateful for this community. I don't know what I would do without this community. And I just hope that I can help richen it even more. And yeah, I'm just inspired, and I hope to keep contributing.
Yeah, you're definitely contributing and making it a better, bigger community.
We need each other because we're way too scattered. Oh my gosh, 5 years ago, I couldn't believe. I was like, how is there not this? How is there not this? Why doesn't this exist?
That's one of those things, when you see something that needs to happen, you create it. I mean, not everyone has the bandwidth to do that, but some people do, and then they inspire others, and then it just snowballs. So I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and better as time goes on. And
Yeah,
I part of that with you.
totally. And the more that stuff like this pops up where people can go in and take what they need from it, they go and do something, and then they go and do something. And yeah, it just lifts everyone up.
Exactly. Well, tell me some of the best resources that have helped you along your way.
Podcasts.
Anyone in particular?
Yeah, the first podcast that changed my life was called The Two Disabled Dudes. Sean and Kyle are the funniest, most amazing, beautiful human beings ever. Check out their podcast. It is funny and endearing. Also, Global Genes. What a great community. Amazing. Get a hold of Global Genes. The Courageous Parents Network cannot be missed. And also the Disorder Channel. You can get it on a Roku or an Amazon Fire. It's hundreds of rare disease films, and it's just amazing. Check that out. Let's see, what else are my faves? I feel like I'm missing so many. Those are definitely my top go-tos that I use myself.
Yeah, I haven't heard of any of these, so I have a lot of things to go check out.
Oh yeah, check that out. If you're on the policy side and everything, man, the Every Life Foundation, what amazing work they do. All of my friends and their organizations, like just this community in general, but that's where you can definitely find the hubs of them, I think, and lots of great resources.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Stuff for me to dig into as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any common misconceptions that you want to debunk about disability, parenting, special needs, anything that comes to your mind?
Misconceptions? That we are sad, and that our kids are sad, and that our life is sad. There is a lot of sadness, but our lives are overflowing with joy. And like you said earlier, disability is a human experience. It's the largest minority. It's just a part of who we are as people, and it's not separate. And I'm so proud of my son.
How's he liking school?
Ford is obsessed with the school bus. So he's so happy. I mean, the first day, even when he left for like preschool, the bus came and picked him up, and he was like, "Bye, Mom." When he was 3, I was like, "Okay, bye." But he has this kindergarten teacher. Oh my gosh, like, can I keep him in kindergarten forever? The first day we went to meet him, Ford was upset because he knows the school, and he wanted to flip up and down the light switches, and I was like, "No, Ford," and he got upset. And I was like, oh, I'm already like thinking this teacher is going to be so annoyed that he has to have a kid like Ford in his class, like thinking that stuff to myself. Yeah. And all of a sudden this teacher gets down, crouches down into like a crab position, and starts walking around the room. And then Ford sees him and starts laughing and forgets how mad he is that he doesn't get to flip on and off the light switches. And I was just like so touched that the teacher didn't go, "Is he okay? Does he need anything? Should we do this later?" Like, he just got in it and did what he would do for any kid who was upset, and just try to make him laugh and change his mind. Whereas most people are uncomfortable and they don't know what to do, and they give you that face that and God, I love that guy. And one more story about him, because he's the best teacher ever. He's a competitive runner, and every morning after morning class stuff, he makes the kids run around the school. Like, they have running class no matter what. And he sent me this video a while ago with this music next to it, but it was every day the kids run, and then when they're finished, they double back, because obviously Ford's not as fast as them, and they all escort him back in and run him to the finish line. He's 400% inclusion, and it means everything to me. And I know that he is making these other kids' lives so much better by being like that.
Absolutely. That sounds so special. That's awesome.
You've got to watch the video. I think I put it on my Instagram.
Yes, I will. And speaking of Instagram, I just want to wrap up with where listeners can connect with you online.
Yeah, you can find my website, effieparks.com or onceuponagene.com. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. I'm hard to miss. Just Once Upon a Gene, you'll find me, and Ford's wild hair.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to discuss? I feel like I could keep you here forever, but
I feel like I've yammered on enough. I would just say, you know what, parents, like, it's okay to feel everything. Don't ever feel ashamed of how you feel. Those are natural things. If you're mad, if you're sad, if you're jealous, if you're envious, if you are grieving, let that just be. It's going to happen, and it's important to feel it and go through it and not block it down. And find your people, find them wherever you can, online, on Facebook, through those groups that I mentioned earlier. Like, find your people and just understand that it's okay to feel all of those things, because you will also feel happy and joy and fulfilled.
Yeah. Everything is a valid experience, and the variety of the emotions is part of, the richness of our experiences.
Totally.
Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit, and I'm excited to dig into all these resources that you mentioned.
Yes, it was my pleasure. I'm so happy you're here on the podcasting scene, and I'll do whatever I can to help you.
Thank you, Effie. Have a fantastic day.
You too.
Bye-bye.